So UFC 327 just ended a couple minutes ago, and as we always do on this channel, let's break down the entire fight from the early prelims to the main event, starting with the first fight on the night, Charles Radtke versus Francisco Prado. Radtke just absolutely dominated Prado on the ground, on the feet. I mean, like Prado had moments, but it was mainly Radtke's grappling that got him this win. Uh, excellent, excellent performance for Radke. Prado just had no real opportunity to win this fight, and it showed. So yeah, a great look for Radke, and a great addition to the UFC's roster. Next up, Kelvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. Kelvin, I don't know what's next for him. I really don't. Luque just outstruck him perfectly as well. It was a perfectly placed uppercut that sent Gastelum right on his butt to the ground to where Luque could take advantage of that, go for ground and pound. Gastelum was still pretty much out of it to where Luque could lock in the finish. Just a beautiful, beautiful performance for Vicente Luque. Pretty much like just a vintage Vicente Luque moment. Sometimes he shows up in a different form, but this was him showing up in a vintage Vicente Luque form. A beautiful win against Kelvin Gastelum. Next up, last fight on the early prelims, Chris Padilla versus Markel Medeiros. I had Medeiros in this fight, and boy was I wrong. Chris Padilla, his defense was beautiful, sported a really cool-looking high guard. His jabs and crosses were timely. Medeiros really couldn't develop a decent response to it. I was surprised that two judges in this fight scored the fight a draw, even though Chris Padilla obviously won the fight. Really, really weird outcome to it, but at least Padilla was still able to walk away with the win via the third judge actually being a competent one. Excuse my voice, I was screaming during the main event, which we will talk about later on in this video. Next up, on the actual prelims, Tatiana Suarez versus Lupi Godinez. I had Suarez winning in this fight via TKO. Should have chose submission. Suarez, I mean, the size differential was incredibly blatant. Suarez looked so much bigger than Lupi in there, but credit Lupi for coming out the gates aggressive as heck. She made it known that she was not going to be played with, but in the end, Suarez was still able to get Lupi to the ground and out-grapple her there. And it was all she wrote in the second round. Credit to Tatiana, man. She's just a different beast in comparison to most of these women in her division. Next up, Mateusz Gamrot versus Esteban Ribovics. I had a lot of belief in Ribovics. I felt like, I don't know, I was still kind of starstruck from what happened between him and Zellhuber at UFC Noche. And I don't know, I guess, that starstruckness has to die down. I got to get less hype over Ribovics because Gamrot absolutely toyed with him in the octagon. Ribovics sat on a lot of positions. Although he did, have a couple of decent scramble attempts, I felt like he could have did more. I felt like he could have been more aggressive, more active, and fight on the ground against Gamrot. Gamrot is known to be a really tough grappler to fight against, and Ribovics, I mean, he went in there and it looked like he had no game plan. He just wanted to push towards Gamrot, overswing on punches, and let Gamrot take him to the ground whenever he wants. Ribovics needed to work on getting in and out of the pocket faster hand movement, and realizing a takedown is impending. So he's got to get in and out of the pocket or close and then far away from Gamrot as soon as possible, landing straight punches preferably. But in the end, it looked like Ribovics did not game plan, and Gamrot came out with the win. Next up, Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. I'm very happy Kevin Holland actually took this fight seriously. He came in there, struck with Randy Brown. It was touch and go because Randy Brown had a pretty good round one, but then in rounds 2 and 3, Kevin Holland just styled on Randy Brown. Really cool Kevin Holland win. He looks a bit more mature, and I hope he stays that way for the foreseeable future, because if he does, he could very well still have decent potential to be champion. He has Jon Jones-like potential. He is talented on the ground. He is talented on the feet. His only issue is his mindset. It is his drive. That's the issue. Sometimes he doesn't listen to coaches, and sometimes he doesn't care about fighting in general. Sometimes it's an ambition issue. Overall, it all just falls under the umbrella term of mentality. Kevin Holland has a poor mentality, and I hope he's able to fix it, because if he can get to where Jon Jones is. I think he can. Next up, last fight on the prelims, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. Pitbull came into this fight just not underestimating Aaron Pico. He overlooked Pico. He said Pico had a glass chin, and he said he was going to take advantage of him. Pico has some of the best boxing I've ever seen yet in the UFC. He is fast and he is powerful, and he showed that tonight. He outstruck Pitbull, and his punches had a heck of an effect on Pitbull. Credit to Pitbull, though. He's got a hell of a chin. He took all the punishment from Pico, but in the end, he wasn't able to dish as much punishment toward Pico as Pico did to him. So credit to Pico for getting this win. He just simply walked into a bad elbow against Lerone Murphy. That doesn't make him a bad fighter. I think Pico has a lot of potential, especially because he was able to get a lot of things going with his ground game, and he landed like 5 or 6 takedowns against Pitbull tonight. So credit to Pico. He's becoming more well-rounded, and that's only going to make him that much of a better MMA fighter, maybe even a future champ. All right, main event time. First fight up, Cub Swanson's last fight. It was against Nate Landwehr. His power is just different. Cub Swanson is aged like fine wine. He is up there with the like of Yoel Romero and Jim Miller in terms of aging well. His power is still apparent, and there was just a pure power differential against Nate Landwehr. Nate could not handle Cub's power at all in this fight, and it was only a matter of time before he was dropped and finished, and he was dropped and finished. Credit to Cub, excellent career, heck of a fighter, man, beloved fighter, a memorable fighter. What a way to end a career. You know, better than most have ended their careers. Next up, Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. This was guaranteed to be a Looney Tunes fight. Both of these guys have been known to have awful chins. So I feel like the first guy to land was going to be the first guy to get knocked out. The issue was nobody in this fight was trying to land. It was just a hesitant, scared fight. You know, both guys were just too scared to really bank on any punches. And Johnny Walker was, you know, like he was so scared, he just settled for leg kicks for the entire fight. Reyes was the actual guy to at least bank on a couple to Johnny's none. But Reyes isn't off the hook either. Reyes was also very scared and hesitant. But Reyes won because Reyes was the only guy to throw punches. Leg kicks are not scored high. I don't know for what reason they aren't, but they're simply not. So for Johnny Walker to land leg kicks all day still doesn't earn him the win. Next up, Josh Hokett versus Curtis Blaydes. Josh Hokett, you know, well-known idiot outside the cage on the mic. He is, you know, he's just too much of a tryhard with being controversial and edgy on the mic. I hope he can fix that. In the cage, however, he is a hell of a fighter, very durable, and is a showman. He is a showman. He was not really styling, but he was emoting on Curtis Blaydes, even in the midst of nearly getting knocked out by Curtis Blaydes. Josh Hokett was gassed in this fight. So was Blaydes. Credit to Blaydes for being tough. He ate a lot of punches from Hokett and kept going, especially in that first round. But Hokett was just, I feel like, the more fit and more powerful fighter in this fight. He apparently got a fight with Derek Lewis on the White House card secured. I'll talk more about that later. But, you know, that just shows how big of a potential star Hokett could be in the cage. Outside of the cage, he is still a weird, cringy tryhard. But in the cage, he fights really well, really fun. Maybe not well, but in a fun way, like a Justin Gaethje would. He is a showman in his own weird right. Next fight up, co-main event, Azamat Murzakanov versus Paulo Costa. Bummer of a fight, man. This is just a fight where nature ultimately wins. Similar to that of Sean Brady versus Michael Morales, Costa established his range as a taller fighter and made Azamat Murzakanov fight incredibly short. It was those killer body kicks of Paulo Costa that ended up hurting Azamat's hand. Azamat was taken out on a stretcher. I believe Costa broke his hand with those kicks. I believe he broke Azamat's forearm with those kicks. But, you know, it remains to be seen what really happened to Azamat. Overall, Azamat was hurt, so much so that he just laid down. Azamat was not knocked out in this fight. He just laid down and surrendered. That was really what happened because of how much damage he took from the taller, stronger fighter in Paulo Costa. And I'm saying stronger because Paulo Costa seems to be the more durable one in comparison to Azamat, because he's not the one that broke a shin or a hand or anything for that matter. But again, it was just a pure differential in height, and Costa utilized that advantage to a T. Credit to him. I still think he's an idiot and a dumb jock, but I still, you know, believe in his physical ability and his talent. He's incredibly talented, and if he sticks at light heavyweight, he could definitely make a name for himself in that division. I don't know whether he's moving back to middleweight or staying at light heavyweight. I'll talk more about that in a future video. Next up, last and final fight of the night, the main event, Yuri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg. I want to overall credit Yuri. Yuri is such a beautiful, moral soul. Carlos Ulberg had one of the worst starts to a title fight I think any other UFC fighter has had in UFC history. His knee buckled almost immediately. Yuri saw that and invited Carlos to come forward and stand and bang with him instead of chasing after Ulberg for the finish. And while it could be dumb from a winning point of view, I think it was honorable and very beautiful. Sad to watch because that was technically Yuri giving away the win. Ulberg was able to rally, and then Yuri was going to come in for a finish, and Ulberg clipped him with a counterpunch, which I said he would do regardless. If Ulberg's knee didn't buckle, would things have changed? I would say no. I think Ulberg would have still knocked Yuri out at some point. Yuri is fast. Yuri is agile. His head movement is great. It is significantly improved, but Ulberg's counterpunching is like second nature to him. He can land that overhand right or left whenever he wants while changing angles. And like I said, it's just a sixth sense with his counterpunching. So I feel like Yuri was going to drop his hands at some point, leave his chin overly exposed for Carlos to land some big punch on the button, clipping Yuri almost immediately. I don't think things would have changed, but still, what happened happened. It was still a bit of an awkward way to win a title fight, similar to that of Joshua Van versus Alexandre Pantoja, but still, a win is a win. Ulberg clipped Yuri. I'm sure a lot of Yuri fans will be upset for days, calling out Ulberg for having a fluke win, but I think it was a real win. It was Yuri's choice to continue the fight in that manner. He put his dreams on the line, he put his career on the line, and he risked it for the biscuit, which Yuri does time and time again, and sadly, he paid the price. I love Yuri, but, you know, I was right about it. Ulberg landed that punch, that counter punch. Ulberg is known for it, and he does it beautifully, and he did it tonight. Yuri will be back, hopefully. Overall, let me know what you think about this entire breakdown. It was a really good card. I think it's definitely on the upper end of cards for this year. Maybe, might be even card of the year. I don't know. I definitely know that Josh Hokit versus Curtis Blaydes fight may be in contention for one of the best heavyweight fights ever in UFC history, and maybe even in MMA history. But overall, let me know what you think about the card, about the wins, and about what happened to Yuri. I'll see you guys for my next video, probably in the next couple hours. See y'all then.